successful product launch is integral for the long-term sales potential of your product on Amazon. The goal of the product launch is to create momentum as quickly as possible so that you can increase your sales velocity, generate product reviews, and improve your organic ranking. In this video, we're going to be discussing the 7 steps that you need to take to launch your product effectively on Amazon. Hi guys, I'm Alex from Evergreen Digital, and I've helped hundreds of UK brands succeed on Amazon over the last 10 years. On this channel, we explore tried and tested strategies to help improve your Amazon performance. The first step is to understand the objective of your Amazon product launch. The aim of the launch is not to make a profit, but to gain momentum and increase your sales velocity as quickly as possible. The launch is all about trying to set your products up for future success on Amazon rather than trying to maximize profitability in the short term. So you might have to accept making a loss or breaking even during this period so that you can be as aggressive as possible and take advantage of the honeymoon period. So the honeymoon period is the 30-day phase after the product has become active and available on Amazon. During this period, Amazon's algorithm allows new products to achieve a higher organic ranking than they normally would. So you want to take advantage of this honeymoon period by being as aggressive as you can with your launch strategy so that you can achieve a high organic ranking for your most important keywords before you start to transition to focusing on profit. So the next step is to understand the numbers and the financial details behind your product before you progress with the rest of your launch strategy. So I'd recommend using this Amazon Revenue Calculator tool. I'll link it below, but you can put in your product details just here if you click Define Product. So, the dimensions, the weight, the category, the price, etc. of your product, and it will give you an estimate as to the referral fees, the Amazon fees, and give you a profit margin at the end. You can also search the Amazon catalog and put in competitors' ASIN, let's say. So if you've got a close competitor that you think is going to be quite similar to your product on Amazon, you can find their ASIN and then click search just here. And from here, you'll be able to see all of the Amazon fees, the referral fee, the fulfillment costs, and you can put your cost of goods in here. Let's say your cost of goods is £3, and you'll be able to see a net margin at the end. And you can use this data to determine how aggressive you want to be with your launch strategy. And ultimately, it will give you a good estimate of your expected profit margin once the launch phase has ended. So the next step is listing optimization. So it's really important that your product listing is 100% optimized before the launch phase so that you can maximize the amount of sales that you get. You want to make sure that the conversion rate is as high as possible before you start sending traffic to the listing. So I'd start with doing some keyword research. So I'd use the Cerebro tool within Helium 10 and do a reverse ASIN search to find out the keywords that your competitors are ranking for organically. And these keywords are probably going to apply to your product as well. So ideally, you're looking for high search volume keywords that your competitors are ranking well for that are really relevant to your product. And when you found these keywords, the idea is to use them strategically throughout the listing. So you'd put the most important ones in the title, then the bullet points, the search terms, the description, and the alt text and the A+ content. So it's also really important to create really good gallery images on Amazon. So the gallery images are at the top of the page to the left of the bullet points. And these images can make a big difference on your conversion rate. So the primary image is your main focus. I would look to do maybe 2 to 3 separate images and then split test them using the experiments function on Amazon. For the rest of the gallery images, I'd look to combine text and image and really explain the product benefits. I'd also look to use some lifestyle images as well and upload video if you have it too, but just really get across the key features, the benefits and the USPs of your product within those gallery images. And I'd also recommend doing A+ premium content if you're eligible. So you'll be eligible if you have a brand story and you have over 5 ASINs that have A+ content. So within the A+ premium, I'd look to use the interactive modules that Amazon provide. You can do premium image carousels, you can upload video, you can do hotspot images, you can do product comparison tables. I definitely recommend using these features and trying to create some cohesion between your gallery images, your A+ premium content, and your bullet points, so that no matter where the customers are looking on the product detail page, they're finding the USPs, the key features, and the key benefits. And optimizing your listing will help to maximize your click-through rate and your conversion rate. So it's really important to create a really good, solid product listing. So the next thing you want to do is to send in inventory to FBA. So it's really important to make sure that you don't stock out during this launch phase. If you stock out, you ruin all of the momentum and the sales velocity that you've worked so hard to achieve with the rest of the launch strategy. And there's no real exact science behind it, to be honest. There's no magic number of units that you should send into Amazon. And I would look to use the X-ray tool within Helium 10 to understand how many units your competitors are selling per month, and then just try and base your estimate off of that. And like I said, it's always better to overstock than it is to understock. And you can always send units back to you if you need to, if the product launch doesn't go well. So just make sure that you have enough inventory and you're ready to send in more inventory so that if your product launch goes as well as you hope it might, then you're not going to stock out. So the next step is to generate some product reviews. Reviews on Amazon are really important. They help to create trust and social proof. And your review count and your review rating have a massive impact on click-through rate and conversion rate. And ultimately, generating positive product reviews will have a huge impact on the effectiveness of your product launch. What I'd recommend is using Amazon Vine. So Vine is a program where Amazon invites trusted reviewers to review new products on Amazon, and Amazon calls these reviewers Vine voices. So you can set up Amazon Vine on Seller Central. It costs £140 to enroll 30 units into Amazon Vine, and you're giving away these units for free to these Vine voices. And these Vine voices are obligated to leave a product review. And generally they leave really detailed feedback too, so there might be 2 or 3 paragraphs, and they might include images too. Generally, if you're enrolling 30, you might get about 27, 28 product reviews. There are always a couple of lazy bastards who don't end up leaving product reviews, but generally Amazon Vine is well worth doing so you can get these product reviews in as quickly as possible. So the next step is creating your pricing and promotion strategy. I'd recommend discounting as much as possible during the launch phase to incentivize as many sales as possible. I'd recommend, if possible, starting with 50% off your RRP and then slowly but surely increasing the price point over the course of 2 or 3 months. So each week you might increase your price by 5 or 10% until you bring it back to RRP. And obviously during this period, you're not going to make much of a profit, if any. You're probably going to be losing money. So it's just important to understand the numbers and to understand the objective of your launch so you can justify the losses as they're built into your strategy. And I'd look to do this with your normal price point rather than using sale prices. So just set your price to 50% off initially and then slowly but surely increase it over time. In terms of promotions, if your product is a good candidate for subscribe and save, so let's say you're selling supplements, I would look to enroll your product in subscribe and save as early as possible. And I'd go with a 10% off subscribe and save discount. And I'd also look to use some subscribe and save coupons, maybe 10 or 15% off the first order, so that you can get as many subscribe and save customers going as quickly as you can. And obviously tailor these numbers to fit your business strategy. You might have a bit more margin to go more aggressive, or you might have to be a bit more conservative. But like I said, it's really important to understand the numbers so that you can adjust these numbers accordingly. So next up, you should create your PPC strategy. And I would look to create your campaigns once you have about 5 or 10 product reviews. There's no point creating your PPC campaigns without any reviews because your conversion rate is just not going to be there. So all the money that you spend on generating traffic for your product listing will just be wasted because the conversion rate will be so low. So wait till you have 5 or 10 product reviews and then go quite aggressive with your PPC strategy, but also targeted too. So what I'd recommend doing would be to create these single keyword campaigns for your most important keywords that you've identified during the keyword research phase. So you might have 3 or 5 keywords that are really important and they'll be in your product title as well. And I create these single keyword campaigns and add a top of search multiplier, bid quite aggressively so that you're able to dominate that top of search ad placement with sponsored products ads. And this way you can increase your sales velocity for these really targeted keywords as quickly as possible in order to increase your organic ranking and gain momentum. I'd look to use a mixture of sponsored products, sponsored brands, and sponsored display campaigns, but then be really targeted in your ad spend for those 3 to 5 keywords that you think are really important. And that way you're investing most of the PPC budget into those top performing keywords, which if you start to rank organically for, will bring you a lot of traction when it comes to organic sales later down the road. So throughout your launch phase, you should be tracking key metrics and refining your strategy. So make sure you're using a tool like Sellerboard so you can clearly track your profit margins during this launch phase. It's a great tool that I use with all my clients, and there's a discount code below. I'd also recommend using the Helium 10 keyword tracker tool to track all the keywords that you're focusing on during this launch phase. And again, there's another cheeky affiliate code below if you fancy using it. And so over time, ideally, what's going to happen is that your organic ranking is going to increase, and therefore your reliance on PPC for sales is going to decrease. And so what you should see is that your total ACOS will decrease over time and your margin will start to increase. And this is compounded when you're increasing the product price as well. So initially during the launch, you're spending a lot of money on PPC, you're selling for a big discount, and you're likely losing a bunch of money. But then over time, your price point's increasing, you're less reliant on PPC, and the tables start to turn. I'd recommend transitioning to this profitability focus quite gradually. You don't want to reduce your sales velocity too much and ruin the work that you've done and you've spent so much on. So try and be quite slow and steady in the way that you transition to profitability after this launch phase. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to check out the other videos on the channel.